Presentation discussion with Randy Robinson pertaining to road and bridge funding for Logan County. You know, he was here last month and we really didn't have time to do a proper presentation. And at this time, I thought it was very important that this be discussed.
I appreciate the board letting me come and visit, and I do these around the state. In fact, Creek County and Rogers County wants me to do one, and I don't know whether we need to turn the lights off if the glare doesn't bother you or does bother you. You tell me.
How's your video?
This is just a presentation again on county roads and bridges, and so we look at the overall as a state, because I don't really know if the audience knows about the history and kind of background of county roads and bridges in Oklahoma, and then where the funding comes from for roads and bridges, and then we kind of drill down into Logan County's information and have a few slides on that. So county roads, we have a lot of them. 75% of our road mileage is on the county highway system. And as we would expect, we're a rural state, a lot of those road mileage are unpaved. And we have what we call minor to major collector systems, or these systems are roads that are connecting either state highways or other smaller communities. There are those corridors between counties to counties that are very important, and that information is turned into the Federal Highway Administration every year. They used to be called farm to market back in the 80s and 70s, and we're only able to use federal funds on these farm to markets way back when. But what a lot of people don't realize, of that 83,000 miles of road, that there's over 4,800 miles, and this is as of 2015, that you as commissioners maintain in small communities. So anything under 2,500 population is a part of your system, and anything between 2,500 and 5,000. If you have an agreement on file with ODOT, that's part of that 83,274 miles. And what's important about mileage and keeping up with that is that that's one of three factors that is turned into the tax commission to help divide up fuel taxes and motor vehicle collection tax to each individual counties. Because I get a lot of questions from constituents and commissioners, well, if I buy gas in my county, does my tax stay in my county? No, it does not. It's collected by the tax commission over a month and then dispersed the next month, but it's done by formula. And there's about 4 different formulas that divide up fuel taxes and motor vehicle collection tax, and it's dispersed back to 77 counties that way. So, and then a lot of hazards, Broadway extension is up in Logan County. I have that as a video clip. There's a pretty good, jump up and over railroad crossings. Those are dangerous, line of sight issues and so forth, but several of those out on the county highway system to be aware of. And then as a state, when you kind of pan back and look, a lot of difference between the terrain, rainfall, right-of-way widths. As a state, we're set up because we had several tribes. That was basically eastern Oklahoma is set up. Statutory right-of-way is 33 foot. In eastern Oklahoma, unless you're in like Creek County, Creek Nation is 49.5 foot. And then in western Oklahoma, it's set up under 66 foot of right-of-way. And of course, different terrain, different rainfalls, different road material. And so that adds as a challenge to you as road builders and maintainers. And then section line widths, that kind of shows you overall how we're set up. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. We actually technically have 0 statutory width up in part of Ottawa County with different tribes. One commissioner has 9 different tribes in his commissioner district. But 5 civilized tribes basically set up this different ways and under the Organic Act and back in the day around 1890 and so forth. So adds challenges, 33 foot of right of way. You can't maintain ditches and roads widths at all with that just 33 foot of right of way. And then this is kind of washed out, but it shows you the different colors and the tribal boundaries. We have 38, 39 different tribes recognized by the federal government. And you have a little bit of a tribe coming over into Logan County here in the eastern part of the county.
About 1/3 of my district and about 1/4 of their turf.
Is in
Yes.
their area. So, and just my slide, if I had a newer projector, I could zoom in a little bit closer, but my slides overlap. A bridge defined by the federal government is anything with an opening 20 foot or greater. So of course any spans, there's this one where by Fort Gibson we're getting replaced, but you could have a battery of pipe if the spacing of those pipes are less than half the diameter. That's more information you need to know, but if they're spaced like these are, this is considered a bridge. Once you add up all these diameter, these openings and everything, and the spacing between, if that's 20 foot or longer or wider, then it's considered a bridge too, even though that's maybe just a low water crossing. A lot of aspects or people would look at. And yes, there is rainfall in the panhandle. They get it usually all at once. Of course, if you looked at here lately, they've got a lot more rain here than central Oklahoma here over the last month or so. But when they get it, it comes all at once. So county bridges, we talked about roads. We have a lot of bridges on the county highway system, over 13,000. And then the problem that as owners, that number deficient, we've come a long way. It's dropped probably in the last 15, 20 years in half. And then obsolete bridges, we'll show a couple of slides what that looks like. But still a lot of need. 1.1 is a moving target. That'd probably be greater than that just because of costs today. Those costs keep going up. We're still about 5th in the nation in having the highest percentage of deficient bridges, and we drive it. When I say we, counties do. 83% of the deficient bridges in Oklahoma are county bridges, so that's a lot. We do have some bridges that are incredibly long across major rivers, Red River, Arkansas, and so forth. A lot to deal with and maintain. So, weight limits, they're great for truckers. They can move more product, less cost to them, but that damages roads. The legal load limit on county road system is 90,000 pounds or 45 tons. That's also on the state highway. Interstate system, it's 80,000. So anytime they talk about wanting to haul more weight, I know it does have to deal with the spacing of their axles and so forth. And that's what saves us on the county highway system is a lot of our bridges are single spans and short single spans, the 30 to 40 foot. So a lot of the heavy weights are not all on the bridge at once, but the 10-wheelers and things like that, they can do a lot of damage to our roads and bridges because of the axle spacing, and there's just a lot of weight. The garbage trucks, vehicles of husbandry are exempt from weight limits. Garbage trucks are given another percentage overweight, hauling rock or pulp or wood products. They get oil field trucks get an additional increase to this 90,000 pounds. So all that adds up to possible damage. It's not the car traffic that causes damage to your roads. That's a capacity issue. It's trucks that's going to cause damage to your roads. And so that's really washed out. But this shows you the number of bridges over the spans of time, year built, and of course you'd see it kind of jump up before World War II, and then it kind of dies off. But we've done a lot here in the last 30, 40 years, built a lot. But so this slide is just basically to show you that the problem didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be overnight that we fix it because it takes a lot of money. But it kind of shows you how it's spread out over the years. And we're a fairly young state too. Obsolescence usually means the bridge is too narrow. This bridge has been replaced. It's going into Ponca City there across the Arkansas. But it's a one-lane bridge. I don't know how if they had fist fights or whoever decides to get out on the bridge first, but you can imagine they actually had state highway traffic across this when the state highway bridge was having some problems. So this one's been replaced, and luckily so. And then deficient doesn't mean the bridge is going to fall in per se. This is an extreme situation. This is a beam on the outside. Section lost, the web's gone. There's something wrong with the bridge. It drops over time. A brand new bridge has a sufficiency rating of 100, and over time it drops and becomes deficient for either structural or alignment or washing out issues. There's another extreme. This has been replaced also across the Red River. Salt and concrete don't mix over time. This is an old toll bridge on the state highway system across the Red River that was given back to the counties, and you can see it had several issues with it. Probably the predominant thing, if you have a timber bridge, is piling, rotting out. That's what I see a lot. The water going up and down, and you have a bridge made out of wood over 40 years. That's amazing that it's lasted that long with the loads and so forth. So we see a lot of timber bad piles out there. And then these are a work of art. They're pretty to look at. People ooh and ah, and I have to be one of them. They're great to look at, but if you're having to maintain the bridges, they have to be inspected. They're fracture critical. In other words, any of these members, especially these verticals, being hit by traffic, they can drop. You got two trusses, one on each side, can drop the truss and cause the bridge to collapse. So that's what they're called, fracture critical, and they have to be inspected, and this is very expensive to do on like a year cycle and so forth. So they're getting replaced. Any of them that are historical have to remain in place and do a new alignment, or if they can be hauled off and be repurposed in areas. This is a fairly big one in Ofuskee County, but I don't know how y'all doing in Logan County with trusses. Are you getting close? You still have a few out there?
We still have several.
Still have several. So that's they're pretty to look at, but they're very costly to fix and maintain. They've been out for a long time. Steel rust, and they're just really tricky. The other thing, this is old State Highway 62, I believe. The other thing to worry about, this several pony trusses connected, is drift. Anytime you have major drift hitting a pier, it causes water to swirl, and we looked at a bridge in K County that we looked at, and swirling water, and of course sand causes scour, and you have to worry about scour issues and how much it's been scoured out below these footings and so forth. And there's a few of our county bridges have to have underwater inspections because they're across major waterways or lakes. And WPA boxes or reinforced boxes, this is what you'll see with a lot of rainfall that we've had in April. We might have seen a lot of this kind of action going on in Logan County. Scour, this is the flow line up here, and it comes out and starts kind of making circles around here and scouring out. These WPA boxes can last for years, decades. But if you, of course, scour out the what's underneath, that's going to cause it to crack and collapse. And then pipes rotting out, galvanized, rock goes across, knocks the galvanization, and causes those to rotten out at the bottom and collapse. So we talked about historic bridge. This is the only one in the state, very unique, over by Sapulpa. It has a brick deck on it that they laid across the concrete. I believe this one's closed now, if I remember, but it is something they have to keep in place and keep an eye on, even though it's closed to traffic now. The highway is right up here, so it's not like it's very far away. And then new bridges, most of them are built out with federal funds, are built pre-stressed concrete. And then this is what we're trying to prevent. This is a timber deck, little light steel beams, and a collapse and people getting hurt or killed going across our bridges. And we had situations, garbage truck went across, 30-ton garbage truck went across, this is a 13-ton bridge, and I believe it was like 1,100 foot long, and they collapsed the span behind them, as you see in this picture back in 2005. Lucky to get across. This is a little outdated slide, but you see there's no really per se rhyme or reason. You know, these counties here in red have over 375 county bridges. One would have thought, you know, maybe eastern Oklahoma, you know, with all the creeks and everything, but every section line is opened up in these counties, and they're flat. They're not long bridges, but they're over 20 foot, and so they have a lot to deal with, and especially Grant and Lincoln County next to you too. They have a great number of bridges. So school buses, we did a survey, or ODOT did. We found out, we used to think school buses, fully loaded activity buses, weigh about 10 tons. We did a survey, now that we're finding out really they weigh more, closer to 15 tons. And so that really causes concern, and because every route could be potentially a school bus route. And so making sure those school bus drivers are aware that, you know, you're fully loaded, you could be easily going across a bridge that's not really capable of supporting your weight. Deficiencies. So this is the top 10. I even threw Tulsa and Oklahoma County in here. You're number 4, which is not a good thing to be in. This is percent deficient. As I mentioned, we're 5th in the country, having the highest percentage of deficiency. We drive that number. So currently, based off of 2005, that's down here at the bottom, May of 2005, or 2015, excuse me, you have about 44% of your bridges are deemed deficient in Logan County. So you're 4th as out of 77 counties. And I said we've done a lot. The last 20 years, there's that one in across the Red River in Osage and Pawnee, Blackburn Bridge, and all different shapes and sizes. We've done a lot. We have to use different pots of money from federal, tribal, county. You guys have used ACOG money. So there's not one pot of money that's going to replace everything. You have to really look for different pots to make it work. And then I throw this slide in here, the importance of counties, your staff. You got a ready source of staff and equipment. Well, we have disasters, and again, my slides cut off all the floods here we had in April, but we're always going to have a disaster. It's just a matter of when, and you have the equipment spread out around the state and can act quicker than any other entity, whether it's the forestry department or whoever, wildfires and so forth. So the importance of your staff and your equipment is critical to our state. And you've had fire issues in your county. So funding sources, as I mentioned earlier, fuel taxes, gasoline, diesel tax, motor vehicle collection tax is what, whenever you renew your license or you buy a vehicle, that excise tax goes into that fund, motor vehicle collection tax, and then gross production tax on natural gas and oil production in your county. And you might have a countywide sales tax for roads. Rogers County has the greatest. They get about $6 million a year going each year back into their county road system. And then there's probably about 15, maybe 16 counties. There are 76 counties that have a sales tax, and about maybe 15 to 13 have a portion of their sales tax go back to their county roads. Most of them are using their sales tax for other purposes. We talked about the BIA or tribes. We do get money pushed through the Department of Transportation and amounts to about $26 million a year in federal funds. They're called Surface Transportation Program funds. You've seen a lot in the paper about the new DRIVE Act in-house trying to push. They did another extension, I believe, kind of kicking that can down the road. But we get $26 million, $20 million for bridges, $6 million for roads, which $6 million is not very much. So as an aggregate as a whole, every county will have a unique pie charts, and I'll have another slide that will show Logan counties. But as a whole, you see, this lumps in other funds, whether you get from tribes, other grants, but motor vehicle collection, gasoline, diesel, gross production. But what 99% of the people don't realize is, it goes for all these things for your county shop. You got overhead, labor, equipment costs, materials, fuel. You're just talking about rock costs doubling. But no property tax goes back to the county road system. And I would say 100% of your constituents don't realize that. The complaints I get at my office, when I get complaints about commissioners not maintaining, well, I pay property taxes, why isn't my commissioner maintaining my road? Well, in Oklahoma County, I get my statement and I flip over the back and it shows me the breakdown of my property tax. And in Oklahoma County, I believe it's about 78% of it goes to education or higher ed. The county general fund gets about 11 to 12%, but nothing goes back to the county road system. And that's what people, in other states, I think that's where people maybe get it from, is other states surrounding us, it does, Kansas, Arkansas, I don't know about New Mexico and Texas. They do get property tax going back to roads and bridges, but in Oklahoma, it just doesn't work that way, and so that's what the disconnect is. And as I said, there's formulas. There's 3 factors that divide up the taxes, and road mileage, population, and land area are the 3 major factors that are used in those formulas to divide up the money between counties. A big source of revenue, a law that was passed in 2006, we asked the legislature, whatever you do, don't create another fund, send it back to counties, they need it for maintenance and operation. Well, they created another fund and they sent it through ODOT to maintain on behalf of counties, and it comes from motor vehicle collection tax, and it was phased in over 3 years, starting back in 2000. It started actually in July of 2007, phased in 3 years, and then we got another 5%. But this last legislative session, there was a big funding gap, and about $611 million funding gap. They took out $50 million in this road fund for county roads, and they capped it. It was about $139 million was what was brought in this last year. This motor vehicle collection tax is kind of a growth. In other words, you'll get more drivers and so forth, and population grows. This tax always increases. And so they took about $72 million out of the funding this last fiscal year, or the fiscal year we're in right now, for our county roads and bridges fund. And that money is divided between the 8 ODOT field divisions. So you're in Division 4 out of Perry, and I believe there's 9 counties, I think that's what it is, that you share that motor vehicle collection tax and projects. The projects have to be led through the Department of Transportation, and they provide oversight, and that's in the state law. So in Logan County, things that you've accomplished, just pull some numbers out of ODOT. About $8 million have been spent, 3 bridges, 4 miles of roadway. And then in the 5-year plan, which is, I think, on the agenda, but roughly speaking, there's about $18.5 million worth on 12 bridges and 27 miles of roadway over the next 5 years. Now, whether that's in budget, out of budget, I'm just saying that was what's on the last 5-year plan. So Douglas, I just went up and took some pictures of that. Looks great. This is before. A lot of cracks, a lot of issues, nice overlay. Got a lot of nice housing additions coming in. So a big benefit. And that's the challenge Logan County always has. You're butted up against the wealthiest county. And that disconnect, people just don't understand. You have a different funding stream, and you don't have the same revenue sources that Oklahoma County has. And so you have a lot of population coming in to the lower part of Logan County, and a lot of subdivisions. So crosstown beams, different subject though, but the I-40 structure, about 1.5 miles that was in Oklahoma City, We repurpose those beams. We actually have 2,060 of those beams. Monty has a staging area. How many beams did we end up? I can't even remember how many we finally.
We got a slug there.
We got a bunch of beams, and the great thing about that, they're deep beams. They're 33, 36 inches deep, and this is a little trust I think Monty you did, that there's still a lot of life left into them, and they can save $15,000 to $18,000 per site, and it all depends on the length of the bridge and how many beams you're using, but repurposing, and we'll be able to build around the state around 300 bridges or so. And they're a great need. The only challenge is you got to have a fairly deep creek, because they are 3-foot deep beams. You don't want to hump up your road a great deal and cause a kind of a deuce of hazard roadway. So you got to have a kind of a deep creek to make these work for you. But they're great to have. They're free. Delivered back, like I said, Monty has a bunch of them. So Logan County, these are the stats that you have. You got a lot of miles on your county system, and this is as of 2015, 1,200 miles plus. And breaking down, about 20% of your road mileage is considered hard surface, and of that, there's about 81 street miles that are part of your 1,200 miles up there in 10 different communities are in Logan County. So very important to those communities. And then the number of county bridges is 216. And of those, and this is, I added in obsolete bridges. Remember, the other was 44% is deficient, but when we throw in the narrow bridges, there's 107 of those that are narrow. That bumps up about half of your bridges are considered deficient or obsolete here in Logan County. But anything can happen with money, right? So, and that's a moving target. That probably needs to be a little bit higher than 32 million, but because that keeps a creep. We're seeing construction costs just jump from month to month, and we just don't have enough contractors. I don't think in Oklahoma to stay up with just the sheer volume of projects. You know, Department of Transportation is trying to reduce or eliminate all its deficient bridges on their system. So you got a lot of projects out there, and so it drives up. It's that supply and demand type thing. You got a lot of projects going, and so we just don't have enough contractors, I think, to sometimes to drop that cost down. So project costs keep going up. Average age bridge in Logan County is 50 years. So that's significant, and doesn't mean that that's an issue as long as you maintain and keep them repaired, but it does become a problem, and you have a lot of bridges out there. Like I said, half of these are considered basically having some sort of issue. Oldest is 107. I could pull up where it's at, but I don't know off the top of my head where that bridge is at. I'm sure it's historic. So, apportionment, and I do appreciate Troy helping me out on this. I guess it's my next slide after this on sales tax. But apportionment's coming back over the fiscal year, going from July to the end of June. You deal with 3 different calendar years: calendar, federal, and then state fiscal year. So just over $5 million going back for your county road system. Again, land area of Logan County, population of Logan County, and road miles of Logan County, used in 4 different formulas, different combinations to determine how much comes back. And then you'll get gross production if you have the activity, which you did get a lot of gross production the last year. So if you divide that out by the 1,200 miles of road, you have 4,200 miles per year basically available to you to maintain, whether that's patching, grading, whatever, diesel costs, the labor to go out there, replacing pipe, whatever's out on that mile of road, that's what you have available per year.
Take your phone service and everything.
So you're not the worst off. We have a lot worse off. You know, you're in the 56th out of 77 counties, and this amount up here throws in that other fund, the County Bridge and Road Improvement Fund. So that includes that fund too. So this is not your total county highway fund, it includes the CBRI fund, which you get.
So
a
really,
portion of.
4,200 would drop off some.
About
Correct.
2,900.
Correct. Yeah, so this 4,200 includes the CBRI, because some counties divide that up also like their county highway fund. And some counties keep it in one pot, so everyone does it different. Does not include your countywide sales tax in that number. So Logan County, I told you a pie chart, as fiscal year 2015, motor vehicle collection tax, about 1.2 million, gasoline, this is diesel down here, it's hard to see here, but 25%, gross production, 42% made up your total county highway fund this last fiscal year. And then this slide kind of shows you the last from 14, 13, 12, back to 2009. Here's the total. It's kind of hard to see what these different color sets are, but this is gross production, this top part of the bar chart. This is motor vehicle collection tax. This is your fuel taxes. I lumped in gasoline. And see, those are fairly steady. They've kind of increased. Motor vehicle collection tax, fairly steady. It's gross production, and this next slide throws in 2015, how it jumped up almost $1 million in your gross production tax. Whereas these other ones kind of fairly steady or increasing. Remember, this part, this motor vehicle collection tax, is now frozen. With legislation that was passed this last year, they've capped this amount. You cannot receive more than this amount. And this was a nice, steady little growth fund. So this has been capped. Unless we change legislation, that part of your highway fund has been frozen based off of 2015 values. So I'll email this back to you. I've added a couple of slides and information. I was just curious. This is your gross production the last 3 years. You see how just, it's been fairly steady around this amount per month, and this is the months down here at the bottom cut off. But almost everyone that had major gross production had this major spike around November, December, and January. Kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't fully quite understand how there's a lag into when they're doing production and when they're paying. Sometimes they overpay and they get reimbursements and this. But this is a fiscal year. You did have a bump back up to about 137 and 139,000 in July. So it did bump back up a little bit, but it's kind of all over the place, and it's hard to really budget when it's jumping around like it does. But one would think with prices and production, it would fall back, maybe back into these amounts back in 13 and 14, but who knows? But that's what I would perceive kind of happened. But Logan County did get with this, it's a blessing, you get the funding, but I've never had a county said that it's enough to cover the damage that's done. This is just production, so if you have salt injection wells, you get no tax dollars off of that. You get the damage because they're running over your roads
Big time.
to cause to put those into the well system. But this is only if you have production online. So they've already drilled it way back here. They drilled it back here, building the pad site, and all the damage happened months or a year ago before you actually start seeing some sort of income. But you got to fix those potholes. Potholes don't get smaller over time, they just get bigger. So you got to make those fixes way before you get maybe that money. So this, again, just kind of showing that disconnect. And then what people don't understand is you having a shop, you have a payroll, you got benefits, you have maybe part-time summer help, travel, rentals, you got equipment costs, repairs. Those don't get cheaper over time. Whether you do lease purchase, you're going to have, you're going to be paying on equipment, keeping it under warranty, or whether you own equipment outright. You got fuel going up and down, utilities, insurance, and so forth. And so you just having the doors open, you have a default cost just to have the doors open and to have people working at the shop. Let alone if you want to chip and seal something, buy rock, That's just something above and beyond what you gotta do. So this is what I mentioned, the slide Troy helped me with on this, and I appreciate her help, is that you do have a new sales tax, and it jumped around a couple of different times this last fiscal year, but starting in January. It was effective in January. And one thing I questioned the tax commission on one of their documents, because it didn't look like it was still at a quarter cent. But there's such a disconnect between when a business has to turn in their sales tax. They could turn in their sales tax. They're not penalized. They're given a grace period. And so it almost takes, even though it's affected in January, really February is when it starts really, you're starting to see the money come in. So January is really still at a quarter cent, even though it was effective and voted in January 1st. And at this, based off of this, just under $1 million, and the tax commission gets 1%. So the 1% is already taken out of this amount for collecting. They do this with every county. They get a 1% off of any kind of tax they collect on behalf of counties. So it's broken up into thirds. And Troy, I hope this is correct. This basically each a quarter of a cent. And this is based off of this new rate, which again started in February. They actually started collecting this in February, and these are the amounts coming in, and you get about you've got about a 300,000 plus going back to county roads, which are great.
That's over a year time?
That's over a time frame since basically February.
Oh, since February, okay.
Yes. There's that, like I said, there's that disconnect there, even though it was there's such a lag time when they don't, they're going to hold on to their money as long as they can, especially the bigger companies and so forth.
So for each district on the
Just
county
over
roads
100,000.
is
Just
divided by 3.
if that's what you do.
Yeah.
So on other taxes, your use tax, it's at the same amount, and that's at, it's whatever, like oil companies, or you have businesses come in, they're storing supplies here, but that's also earned about $311,000. I don't know what y'all use your use tax for.
He goes to general fund.
General fund, oh, that's what it said, general purposes, so it's whatever this board decides, I guess, to use that money for. So it's nice to have some sort of, I've always asked counties what kind of rainy day fund you have. Who knows what's the right amount. You have an air conditioner go out, you have a transmission go out, and a grader that you don't have under lease. I mean, all that's not cheap, and to fix that, it costs a lot of money. Or you get a flood. There's going to be a disconnect before FEMA can help you. So that's a challenge. Other nearby counties, Oklahoma County is the only county that does not have a sales tax. They'll have to do something about their jail. You've seen that on the news. They got it. I think they talked about, I saw something about a 1 cent. Now whether they keep that jail in place or locate it someplace else, who knows? But they're going to have a hard sell on that because of the issues with the old jail and problems. But you got Lincoln County, Noble, Kingfisher has a big chunk, Payne County, and it's all based off of, they have, yours is 0.75%, but it's based, of course, population. There's a lot less, but they have a lot more activity, businesses in Enid and so forth that they collect from. Questions, comments? Like I said, I'll email this new update to you. I added 3 slides, I think.
You gonna email the whole presentation?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
And to Troy too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That's good, Hank, appreciate the work.
Very much so.
Mandy, I did, one thing you said, 76 counties have a sales tax. Did I hear you right on that?
Yes,
That's correct.
county-wide sales tax.
So what is the 77th county that doesn't,
Oklahoma.
don't have any sales tax?
It has, there's a state sales tax, and then the city, Oklahoma City has a sales tax.
Okay.
Or Edmond has a sales tax. But the county doesn't, the county can do 2 cents, up to 2
Up to
cents.
2 cents. Okay, thank you.
lot of them counties, Randy, on their sales tax, I mean, they break it out like 2% goes to,
Most counties use it for jails, either building one, maintaining jail operations. Most of them, and most of them, you know, a lot of them, you know, community centers, county library, it's spread out among several different things to get it passed.
I've looked at some of them sales tax though, and a percentage will go to like the free fair board and.
Yeah, fairgrounds is another.
But they do it all as one county sales tax. but
Correct.
Then they break it out, but that's no
Correct.
longer legal.
No, that got changed.
That got changed, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then Rogers County, I did a little history on them. They have a 1 cent sales tax that goes to roads that was passed in 1988 and has been, it's a 5-year sunset and it's always passed. So I don't think they have any dirt gravel roads.
They
in
have very,
Rogers.
very few. I would say less, I've heard less than 5.
And their deficient bridges is just daggum near now to 0.
Well, when you're getting an infusion of another 6 million beyond what most counties get.
Over that
you
many
can-
years,
Yes,
yeah, makes a
makes a
sizable
difference.
difference.
That's right.
Are we good?
I'm good.
All right, well, I see Commissioner Goodman stepped out for a second.
Give you right back. Well, that's a lot of work. I appreciate
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
It's interesting to look. Every county's so different and unique, and how you get your money back to you is you know, it is a challenge to deal with the costs that are going up. I did one deal where I looked at like Noble County, and even though their revenue went up about 3% and tax revenue, their costs, concrete, rock, went up over 10%. So you're chasing something that you can't ever stay up with. The only thing you can do is, you know, do with less, you know, even less equipment or less employees.
Yes.
But some counties on the CBRI account, they divide that into just road maintenance.
Yes.
We tried-
Well, they keep it separate, but they divide it into thirds. You can't use the CBRI fund to pay like your utility bill
Right.
or buy equipment.
Yeah.
So they divide it in thirds and keep it separate and do projects with it.
Yeah, we try to leave ours in one account, then we can do our projects.
Engineering
Yeah.
costs and various and sundry other things. And then when we get a surplus a little bit, which we feel like we do, then we'll put it on the various projects. So.
Do y'all chip and seal yourself? Do you do any of that?
We don't have that ability.
No.
We don't.
Which chip and seal, you know, you gotta have a base. You gotta have a good base, or those
Yeah.
just won't last with the truck
Yeah.
traffic.
I have very few good bases.
Yeah.
And I have that 107-year bridge that
Oil field road, that's,
recently
you know,
got closed.
yeah, that, you know, hundreds of trucks to build that stuff. And they bring that stuff in, dozers and everything else, and it's usually not a pretty sight, what's left.
You know what, I mean, like when they're fracking a well, they got them water lines ran out there for 2 or 3 weeks. Half of them leak, shooting water across the county road, then you got hundreds of trucks.
Like that, yeah.
and People just don't see the whole picture, they just see part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fracking a well, I mean, it's hundreds of trucks just to frack it, let alone drill it.
Or when they're putting a pipeline across the
Yeah.
county, which I hear rumors of another one going through. Why, all those trucks back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really devastates them, so. Well, it is what it is though. We deal with it to the best of our ability. Thank you, Randy.
Well,